Hi, everyone. So I'm Stephanie Sprangers, and I'm the founder of Glam Hive. And I'm here with Andrew Whites and Quentin Thrash. And we're going to have a conversation a lot about men's style, but also the ROI and the return on investment of having great style and why it matters. So I'm going to start with you, Quentin. I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell everyone about you and your business and just a little bit of background about you.
Well, I am Quentin Thrash. I'm originally a small town boy from Hawkinsville, Georgia, which I just got back from, and the bugs were a nice reminder of why I loved LA. But yeah, so I started out, I grew up an athlete my whole life. I went to college on a full football scholarship. I was always into dressing well, but I can't necessarily say fashion because I didn't come from fashion. I didn't understand fashion. But when I moved to LA is when I was kind of able to really venture into the industry. And I started out as a stylist. I started styling one of my NFL friends from back in South Carolina where I went to college. And that kind of gave me the platform to kind of start putting myself out there and gaining more clients. So I've been in LA 8 years now, and I finally made the transition about 2 years ago from styling to owning my own wardrobe studio. And then from there, I started deciding to design and just like create my things that I envisioned that I couldn't find in certain places and things like that. And so I've had Thrash Bespoke now for 2 years. Going well. I specialize in pretty traditional tailoring, but with a twist as far as patterns and colors and material that I use and things like that. And that's pretty much what I'm known for.
I love that. And I can see your amazing jacket in your background, and we'll get into that. But I've loved so much the way that you use color and pattern, and it's so interesting and unique. And so now, Andrew, we'll turn to you.
Well, for all you viewers who have not seen me before on Glam Hive, I will fill you in. My name is Andrew Whites. I'm the founder of The Whites Effect, which is a style consultancy firm. What we do is we work with men and now women who work in fields where their professional image has a direct impact on their success. And through style, we help educate and guide and increase one's confidence, business network, personal relationships, income, career advancement, and so forth. I'm originally from Philadelphia. Like Quentin, I was never Mr. Fashion. I didn't go to school for it. It's kind of more a quality, a passion that I have for style. I moved to LA about 25 years ago, and that's where I started to find my personal style. And I was a talent agent. I was in the entertainment business for 20 years, and I was always known as the best dressed agent. And so colleagues and clients of mine, I represented actors, many of whom you know, and they would ask me for guidance, and I would help them. And as I was watching the outcomes and results from what I was doing for them and myself, I realized there was something here. And for 4 years, I worked on this business, and I started 6 years ago. So here we are. There's a lot more to it, a lot of layers. My business is about style, lifestyle, not so much, fashion.
Yeah. And I know, and I've known you now for many years. I met Andrew about 3 or 4 years ago when I just was kicking off Glam Hive. And really my conversation with you that day at the Soho House was really such a light bulb moment for me, kind of making the transition between, just wear a great outfit just to look good, to really like the power of style. And to give people a frame of reference, I love this story and I'd love for you to tell it. I make you tell it all the time. You know that I do. And Quentin, we're going to find a story from you too. But it kind of was like that moment where, tell the story about the moment in the boardroom where you were still an agent, but you were dressing different, and how people were reacting to you that day.
So when I was an agent, I was quietly, helping others outside and inside the agency. There was one day, again, I was always known as the best dressed agent, and people, when you're in the entertainment business, especially back in the 2000s, right? Between 2000 and 2010, your basic uniform was a navy gray or black suit, right? Plain shirt, some kind of tie, and shoes. no one was really stepping outside the box, outside the zone, except Andrew Weitz. And people started to take notice of it. And I get a lot of inspiration, whether it's Humphrey Bogart or Fred Astaire, so many different icons out there, even Italian. And I loved wearing, I thought, yeah, hey, you know what's cool? In 2005, I'm going to start wearing a pocket square. And people were like, what is going on with this guy? So after a few years of starting to do my style thing, I was in the boardroom, and the CEO of the company, I work for a company called WME IMG. It's the largest talent agency in the world. Ari Emanuel, who owns it, was giving a talk about the box office and his client, Mark Wahlberg. And in the middle of his conversation with 200 agents, he stopped and turned and pointed in my direction. And just out of nowhere, like in the middle of it, he goes, "What the F is that?" And everyone kind of turned and was looking at me, and I kind of looked around and I was like, "What?" He goes, "What is that?" And I said, "Me? What?" And he goes, "That in your pocket. What is that?" And I said, "It's a pocket square." He goes, "A what?" I go, "It's a pocket square." He goes, "Well, I don't like it." And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "Well, what is it?" And I said, "It's a piece of fabric that enhances like your look. It's timeless. It's classic. It's old school. It gives something other than just wearing a dull suit." And he was like, "Well, it's fucking ugly." And then he turned back around and just started talking about Mark Wahlberg again, like nothing ever happened. And, you know, what you just said is very true. That's the aha moment for me, because that virtually called me out in front of my peers and in general. And it is, as much as one would sit there and go, "Oh my God, should I tuck it back in? Should I take it out?" I said, "F it. I'm just going to rock it and leave it." And I left the boardroom. I went back to my office. I put my books down. I said to my assistant, I said, "Okay, hold my calls. I'll be back in 30 minutes. And I went downstairs, and across the street was a boutique British label, Turnbull and Asser. I walked in. The guy said, "Hello, mate. How can I help you?" I said, "I want to buy 10 pocket squares." And I came back. And since then, I was known as the pocket square guy, the pocket square agent. And from there, that allowed me to start stepping really outside the box and doing things where people started to take notice. And that's how I discovered my business of style is more than just fashion and buying clothes and putting them on.
Yeah, I love that story. And so, Quentin, I imagine that if you transitioned from an athlete, do you have a moment like that where you were, you know, called out, or it was a moment where people really recognized your style? Does that?
I think I've always kind of been that person to go against the grain. So I was always kind of known for being different. But like I said, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just being genuine. I was just being genuinely me. You know what I mean? And I remember when I went to college, my freshman year, and I would get dressed every day for school. And my teammates were like, "Bro, that ain't gonna last that long. Like, you're gonna be wearing sweats just like the rest of us." I'm like, I'm built a little different from y'all. So, but that stuck with me. Like, that's just kind of what I end up becoming known for is, you know what I'm saying, being the guy who dresses well. And I would say my aha moment was when I met this lady by the name of Renee. I can't remember her last name, but she introduced me to thrifting at the time. Mind you, I was a college student at the time. I didn't have, you know what I'm saying, much money or whatever. So she introduced me to thrifting. And that's when I found all these one-of-a-kind pieces or these vintage blazers and things like that. And once I started buying those kind of pieces and getting them tailored to where they fit more modern and they fit my physique, that is what took me over the top and got me a lot of recognition, especially once the social media world came about with the Instagrams and the Facebooks and things like that. That's what kind of helped me transition.
Yeah. And so did you just kind of just have naturally great taste?
Yeah, honestly, I did.
Yeah.
I can't really explain it. Like I said, I didn't come from a fashion background. My family's very small town, country people, you know what I mean? Dirt roads, that type of stuff. And I just always, I don't know, I just always thought different. I look in magazines and the internet and things that I saw on TV, and I just be intrigued by them. And I was just like, if these people on TV can dress like this, or they can wear these type of things, or they can create these type of things, why can't I? And that's what kind of like set me apart from everyone else, because everyone else was kind of confined to what they knew of and what everyone else was doing. And I was trying to think outside of the box because of what I was seeing on TV. I knew that those people were the exact same as me. I was just confined to a small area where I didn't have much access.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I love that story. And you both of you, I think, you know, as men, I think men think about tailoring maybe more than women naturally do. So tell us why tailoring makes a difference. This is like the biggest aha I've had in talking to so many stylists is the difference that it makes. And so maybe Quentin, we'll start this question with you because you make clothes, but what is it about tailoring that most people don't know, and why does it make a difference?
Yeah, it was a really big important thing for me because I'm one of those people who has a weird body shape. I'm athletic. I'm 6'4", but my waist is a 31. So I can't find things off the rack. You know, it just doesn't exist. And if I do, they're extremely wide in the waist or in the shoulders and things like that, or the sleeves are super short. So that's what made me really get into design, because even if I find like cool things off the rack or in vintage stores, they would never fit me well, and I had to do crazy alterations to them. So that's what made me start designing. But being an athlete is like your body is just either you can be super bulky or you can be super trim. And with a tailor, once you start tailoring your pieces, everything becomes so niche to your specific body type. So from my body type to all of my various clients' body types, everything is so different. So that's why I've never really been a big fan of ready to wear, because it's made for the general public. It's not made for each individual person. That's why I chose bespoke, because I love creating something for each and every person. Because a lot of people feel that they can't achieve certain looks, they can't do these type of things, when it's really all about how you mold those pieces to your actual body style.
Yeah. And Andrew, I know you work with athletes also, and I was lucky that Andrew and I presented at a corporate event. And I know that Andrew brought someone on stage, and, you know, it was like real estate agents. And you had someone come on stage, and I think Andrew had the clips, and you just took a guy that looked fine. I mean, fine, you know, not remarkable, but fine. And just by like putting up the shoulders or pulling in a thing or pulling, all of a sudden this guy went from a little bit schleppy, dad-like, to like actually pretty baller, like looking a lot better, you know. And so Andrew, what do you, when you work with clients, how do you talk about tailoring?
Well, listen, by most of my business, 90% of my business, what I do is about tailoring. I started an online club membership, and one of the things I said in the beginning is there's going to be a lot of repetition, and a lot of it's going to have to do with tailoring. And I keep getting these questions from these club members: how to tailor, how to tailor, how to tailor. And you know, Quentin's 1,000% right. I mean, everybody has different body shape. We come in different sizes, right, and shapes, and you can't. There are people who just cannot fit into ready to wear clothing, and it's the same challenges a lot of these guys have. If they're certain waist size, but and the thighs are too big, but their ankles are small, and they buy this size, and they don't know what to do. And most people don't know. You got to think about it this way: most guys don't understand or don't know tailoring. They don't even know. When I speak to clients, they don't even know just tweaking just a little bit how much of a difference it will make. They don't understand that you have way too much fabric on your arm here. Let's take it in. I'm wearing a polo. They don't understand that if this is super baggy and there's so much space in here, you can just clip that, take that in, and show off your arm a lot better. There's so many little nuances to play with that help men. I love bespoke. I love made to measure. It depends on who the guy is. I work with men with different shapes and sizes. So I know when something isn't going to work that we are going to customize it. But if you're a guy who's in a sizing of a 48 to 52, chances are you're going to find plenty of good stuff off the rack. It's just a matter of what their body type is. And if you really want to be unique, if you really want to be different, if you don't want anybody else to have what you have, then you're making something for yourself, something special, and you can play with all the details and you can have it however you want. But like he said, I mean, he's 6'4", a waist of 31. He goes, buys the 31 off the rack. He won't get his leg in. And if he does, that thing's being cropped at his calf. You know, he's not even getting to what he wants. So it's great when you can find the custom and it's not just suiting. Like it becomes your denim, it becomes polos, it becomes sweaters, it becomes jackets. There's plenty of people out there that are specialists in those areas, and there's others that make everything. So, but tailoring's everything, everything.
Yeah. You know, and you guys are in Los Angeles, which is a pretty image conscious city. Yeah. I live in Seattle, where it's almost a badge of honor to not care how you dress. But I mean, you know, but what I think about so much today, literally in the world of COVID, when we're all on these screens, like I can tell that, Quentin, you're just your glasses, your shirt, your everything. It makes me believe that you're creative and dynamic and smart and interesting and all these things. And Andrew, with your polo, and it's, you know, you're athletic and fit, and you know, so you're making all these judgments. And what I think a lot now about, like within corporate America, is that in Seattle, you've got the beautiful Amazon offices with the spheres. You've got the beautiful Barry Diller designed headquarters of Expedia. You know, you've got the Microsoft offices, the Starbucks offices, where these companies have controlled the aesthetic, at least from a building perspective, and now it's all out of their control because all of their executives and employees are on Zoom calls in their own house. Mm-hmm. And so what I think about from a corporate level is how important it is for men and women to really present themselves. And I know, Andrew, you have research that you cite about literally the return on investment of having good style. I think, you know, women kind of know that you need to dress up. I think in America, a lot of men sometimes don't get that. But can you talk about the research that you have on literally the business results of dressing well?
Yeah, well, you know, just like you said, I mean, we're in LA and self-image is everything. And it's no longer, I mean, I've been preaching this for 15 years. I mean, it's no longer just about your celebrity who's on the red carpet and television movie stars, right? It's truly about the people behind the camera, people who are making decisions. Self-image is everything. And what the problem was for me was that I couldn't understand that if this is so important, why don't people get it? Why don't people understand this? And I'm going to tell you that in a second, but going back to even like where we are today in the Zoom world. Yeah, in the very beginning, I think most people didn't care. It was like, oh, I'm relaxed, I'm home, we're trying to figure it out. But now this is such a new way of working that my philosophy, although it might not be from head to toe, it's definitely head to waist. So important. And perception has always been everything. I tell people that all the time. You have a millisecond to make an impression when you walk into a room. And now you're in a Zoom call, you have a millisecond to make an impression. People aren't only looking at this, they're looking at everything around you. So if that's not, you know, organized or styled in the right way, you kind of start to think about like, well, who is this person? And it's no different when you watch these talking heads on, you know, any of these news channels. And sometimes I'm like, I don't understand. They got the camera down here. You got this up here. The background is just a wall. I would just think to myself, if they want to present themselves in the right way, they would actually perceive everything about who they are, what they are, and people can believe it even more so. So I said to myself, if this is so important, why don't people get it? And I think it's because people believe that what we do is the only thing that matters, and that people only pay for the work we do, and that dress doesn't matter. And that's not right, because we believe this fallacy because we only see ourselves through our own eyes, right? We don't see ourselves through other people's eyes. So you're kind of only looking at yourself 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And one of the favorite things I love to tell people, and this is your favorite, Stephanie, is you got to look at it this way, especially now. We are all business cards. We are visual business cards. Granted, before this COVID, most people weren't even giving business cards out, but now like we're really not giving any business cards out. This is it. So you're doing all these Zoom calls and video conferences, and there's a lot of people that don't know who you are. So this is it. This is what you're presenting. And the sooner we realize how important this is, the more will achieve greatness. And when it comes to research, there was a psychologist who surveyed 500 firms on the way they dressed, and he found that relaxed dress led to relaxed manners, relaxed productivity, relaxed creativity. It just was too relaxed, and it's because clothing is like, it's psychology. You know, what you wear affects how you feel, how you act. And there's another study that shows that people can really tell someone's socioeconomic status, their political status, their age, income, whatever it is, all by looking at their shoes, right? So now, if we're not looking at shoes, people can just look at this right here around, and they already have a perception of what they are. Some are right, some are wrong, but that's just the reality of it.
Yeah. And Quentin, you know, from your perspective within your, you know, clients that you've worked with, have you felt this, you know, point where you're like, I'm really trying to, you know, preach the gospel of why dressing well matters? Like, you know, within your client base or the people that are in your world, do you feel like you're having to really convince people why it matters? Or are people coming to you from the perception that they already know that they want to have great style?
No, I feel like a lot of my clients actually happen to be guys who have no style and probably and honestly don't care to have style. So it's more so a lot of me really trying to push the envelope to get you guys to even think differently about whatever their craft is, their job. I actually have a lot of comedian clients who I battle with them because as a comedian, they like to be received as being very humble. So their jokes, for example, if I have a client who speaks about before he had his success, he feels that he shouldn't dress well, therefore, so his clients can resonate with the stories that he tells. But I'm trying to get him to understand is like, if you're trying to elevate as a comedian, as an artist, every element about you has to elevate, and your client and your fan base is going to understand that. So I was explaining him to even look at all of the more successful comedians. At some point, your success, your fan base has to see that. And because you don't understand that a lot of your fans, they attract to you for different reasons. Not every fan is there for the exact same reason. Some fans are here because of your actual craft. Some fans are here because they want to dress like you. There's clients that are here because they resonate with your background. So I was like, you have to make sure you check all of those boxes off because you never want to leave anything on the table. But so I preach that all the time with my clients because they just don't get it. They don't care. Or they just rather leave it up to someone else like myself, which is hard because you also, aside from what I dress you in, the days that I don't dress you, you still have to keep up that same brand. So I think that's one of the biggest things is making sure they maintain that brand, not just when you're on camera, but when you're in the street as well.
Yeah.
Can I say something to that?
Yeah.
Because that's like, dude, it's funny. One, because I just as an agent representing one of the biggest comedians out there, and also being friendly with another biggest comedian out there, both who don't dress well, right? And one of which, it's like his whole thing, his wife cares, but he doesn't care. It's just like he doesn't care. And what's interesting is we're the fans, we're evolving. This fashion style world is very different than it was 10 years ago. And the fans don't care as long as you're not, you know, showboating and just you're not authentic and you're just out in another world. You're still staying true to yourself, especially if you have someone like me or yourself helping them, just elevating their look. And ultimately, it's really all about the tailoring again. And the greatest thing you just said, which is so funny, is, you know, you're creating looks, you're designing, you're tailoring for them, you're putting them in things, right? And then when they're not wearing that, they're kind of off on their own, and they either understand or don't understand, or just don't care, like you said, about what they're doing at that point. And when I work with guys, it's the same. It's the same. You're trying to educate and keep them on track, because I love to ask them questions. I like to hear what they have to say. So it gives me a roadmap of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do with you. So you get people who have an opinion. You get some who go, I don't know, that's why I'm paying you. But the biggest thing is you can do great with them, But as soon as you leave them to their own devices, or they're like, you're not around, they kind of go back to where they are. So all of a sudden, they're not even wearing or doing what you've created for them that has just taken them from here to here. They're kind of going back here. And there's nothing more annoying to me when somebody does that I've worked with. I'm at a party and they're like, oh, White, what's up? Yeah, man, he dresses me. I'm like, oh, no, I help him sometimes. Because I'm looking at him like, he is on. You're not even wearing what I'm wearing. Don't tell people. If you don't look right, if you're not wearing my shit, don't tell people. It's the truth, though, because then someone's looking at it like, really? This is what he does? And it's you have some clients that are fantastic and have molded and drink the Kool-Aid and go with it and have really evolved. I mean, they tell me sometimes how to tailor shit, which I'm like, okay, which is fun. But then you have others who go backwards, and it can be frustrating, especially in your line of work too, man, because I'm an outside salesperson. So I'm doing all different things, what's best for the client. But when you're doing your thing and they're wearing it completely wrong, or they're not doing it the way they're supposed to, or they're just not paying attention and just have thrown it out the window, it's kind of like, why am I here? Why did I do that? And this doesn't look good on me. And you want it to look good on you. So that's just my thing. I just had to talk about that because I think it's very interesting to hear from your perspective, and then from a guy that's more of the style advisor. And
yes,
same thing.
I want to touch on one other thing, kind of piggybacking off of that. When it comes to personal style, a lot of people don't realize that not just the way that you dress is, like you said, it takes a millisecond for someone to have their first impression. But like everything around you, your lifestyle, the way your office may look, the way your home is decorated, the type of car you may drive, all of those things tell a story about who that person is or who that client may be. And I try to help build that around clients as well, because they think if you just dress well on the red carpet, or if you dress well on the TV, that does it all. It's like, no, you have to embody this lifestyle of who you're trying to be. So I just wanted to.
But with that, because I do the same thing, and that's part of the advisory of whether it's your car, whether it's the location you live, whether it's your vacations, what you're doing. I mean, I'm not concierge service, but I do deal with that. And for me personally, I'm not sitting here and saying you need to buy this, and if you can't afford it, like forget, just keep going, put yourself in debt, nothing like that. It's, you got to do what's best for them. And it is a real image. And I think that's the whole deal with the social media and Instagram and influencers and so forth. I mean, I think we all know half, if not more than half of what you see on there anyway is all facade, but it's inspiration and aspiration and motivation for a lot of people. And there are some on there who are authentic and who are real and are smart and don't sell something that does not exist for them. And then there's others that they do, and that won't last forever for them, but the other guys will last a lot longer. So it's really important. And it goes back to, it's not, especially for men, because fashion is such a dirty word and it's scary, and most guys aren't into that. That's why it's style. That's why my consultancy firm, Style Effect, that's why, Thrash is his thing, style. So anyways.
It's style. And I think, like, just from a woman's perspective, when you see a guy that's dressed well, you guys really stand out. I mean, it's like, really, you think it's so impressive. And I think if guys could know what women talk about, they would dress just like you told them to all the time.
Isn't it funny, the amount of men that are in this world, or even in this country or the city you're in, right? And you're like, oh my God, that guy dresses well. It's like, oh, here's an American in Bangladesh, and you're like sticking out. Like, we're the only person in the room, and it's so crazy that we're the focus. Now it's great, right? And that's what keeps the train going, and why people love it, because they get compliments from men and from women. But it really is the power. So imagine if we all dress well, then the next thing is the women are going to be like, oh, that guy dressed like a slob, I like him. So, well, it's going to take years to get there. But it's funny how, like you said, we stick out. And you being in Seattle, I work with a client who runs one of those companies. And my whole thing to him was, listen, I know you don't care, and I know you just think this is for your clientele and so forth. I'm like, you run a company. You have employees looking up to you. You're doing Zooms. You're doing interviews. You're traveling. You need to look like you run this company. not like
Yes.
you're one of the employees. And I don't mean disrespect to everybody, but like that is the point of it. You have to start to up level. We are in 2020. This is the worst year ever, but it is the one year that we get to reset, try things, and, you know, make it happen.
Yeah, I love that. And so I would love to just, we have like maybe 10 more minutes, but I would love to hear about like the transformation that it can just be in general, like how do people feel once they've worked with you? What are the transformations that you've seen that kind of roll out through the rest of their life? I know, Andrew, you have some stories because I've heard your talk a bunch. So maybe I'll have you start, and then Quentin, you'll go next.
Oh, what am I telling you? Some good
Like the
stories?
story of transformation, like where people start to dress well, and then they do this better, then they get this part, and then this, and yeah.
Sure. 3 examples. One is a CEO. When I sat with him and I told him this is what I could do for him, and he said to me, "Listen, I have relationships. I'm confident, and so forth and so on." I said, "Yeah, I get that, but imagine with all of that, and then add me and multiply that." And he sat there and was like, "I never thought about it that way." And we worked together. And after really like a couple months, but let's call it a full year, he was like a different person. The confidence, like everything about it, like walking into the office, he would tell me, not only he would tell me, people in the office would tell me, because I knew who they were, like, this guy, I don't know what you did, but it is on a whole nother level. So that right there, then taking a guy who was messy and sloppy and working with him and educating him and working with him, his business went up 20% that year, because it just gave him more confidence, as opposed to feeling like I'm just going to this job that I'm doing that I have to do, and I don't even know how to wear the right clothes for what I'm supposed to show up as, and this and that. And working with him, the fact that he told me his revenue went up 20% was huge. And the only thing I want to, really, I mean, there's so many stories. I was just working with someone last week. It's amazing how he's feeling. But I don't know if you're going to ask this, but I just want to make sure we get across that this isn't for people to just go out and spend money or think like, I can't afford this kind of stuff. This is really about investing in yourself and investing in the right pieces that are going to take you further. We could talk about that more if you want, but I want to let Quentin get into his, stories.
Yeah, I feel like one of the biggest things with me, which is kind of funny to me, because I receive it a lot, is that when I dress well, when I come into certain places or certain environments, how many times people tell me that they have to, when they know that I'm going to be in the room, they have to make sure that they dress a certain way to even be around me. I feel like it's the most positive thing that there can be, because you're making everyone around you, you're making your peers elevate themselves just even being in your presence. So I feel like if you can teach that to your clients, that if by you dressing well, it's going to make everyone else elevate their work, that's golden right there.
Dude, I love that. That's so true. I'm going to steal that from you, because every time I'm with somebody, they always go, the fact that I was meeting you today, I had to think about what to wear. What was my best shirt? What was my best, and so, but I didn't think about it that way. And I'm always like humble. I'm like, oh no, I don't judge. In my head, I'm like, I've clocked you from the moment I saw you. But you're right, man. That's so true. It's actually elevating people without them really knowing that they're actually doing it when they know you're in the room. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Well, and I love, Quentin, your story about how when you were younger, you shopped thrift, because I think the thing that I've learned in knowing so many stylists now is that you'll never meet a stylist that's like, you have to spend all the money in the world. You have to buy all these things. It's never that. You'll never hear that story. It's always literally, it could be, I'm going to work with a stylist that's going to go thrifting with me and then tailor it. So I don't know if that was, so this is to say to everyone out there that it's not about spending money. Like, that's the opposite of what stylists do. They just are really like, stop doing this, start doing this, and just kind of having your back, making you look better. Andrew, what was it that you wanted to touch on?
Pretty much that.
Perfect.
Listen, I'm in the luxury business, so most of what I do is high-end designer wear, right? But that doesn't mean I don't work with other brands and companies. that are more mainstream and so forth, because the truth is it is all about tailoring. Where you end up winning when it becomes designer, and depending on what it is and who the designer is, you are going to get much more use, and it will last a lot longer than, say, buying something from H&M, right? So, but if you can't afford Armani, but you can get the same look from Suit Supply or H&M, like, that's your deal, do it. Because what I was just about to say, to touch on what you were saying, was everybody's style is different. Your style is an asset, and people can't see the ROI on this spending if they don't know what they're spending on and why they're doing it. So, and I've said this story before, and I'm going to say it again. It's like, if you go in your closet and you can't find anything great anymore, you're looking for a blazer, and you go to a store and you find the blazer and you look at the price and you go, oh God, I need a new blazer. I don't want to spend this, or I can't spend this. And you put it back. Then you go back to your closet and you got to wear the same jackets, blazers you've been wearing, and you're still sick of it. It's a disservice to yourself, right? And that's not a money problem. That's the difference between an investment versus an expense, because the investment, and the right investment, will pay you back. The expense has no long-term benefit. And then you're going out with your friends, then you're paying for your liquor and your food, and then you look at the bill, and then you go, oh my God, I could have bought the blazer for this. And instead that goes in one and out the other, and then you don't get the blazer. So if you invest in the right pieces that make you feel great, that make you look great, that make you do great, and it's going to last, it is so well worth it. I'll tell you now, I'm wearing a polo. This is from a designer brand. It is not cheap. But you know what I said to myself? I looked at it and I said, I need a new navy polo. I love that there's a zip here. It's a little different. And guess what? This is going to last me a good 3-4 years. How do I know? Because I bought a polo from them 3 years ago that has lasted me up to now. And I just decided that, I'm kind of over it. But imagine the amount of wear over 3 years. Yeah. It goes so much further than if I bought this from an accessible brand. And the way I wear it probably wouldn't last throughout the summer. So it's important to invest. And there's research on that too, which I'm sure people
Well, and I'm sure for Quentin, many years ago, Brioni had women's wear.
That's what this is.
It's a Brioni, yeah. And I was in Paris at their store, and they were doing a closeout. It was during their whole sales during January. And I was looking for like a tuxedo blazer. They had one in my size. It was expensive. Of course, it was on sale, which was great. But I just stepped up and I bought it. And I wore that thing, I think I bought it in 2011. And so this last year I was in Paris, and it was shiny because my dry cleaner just, after 2011, now it's 2020. And I didn't even know that, but I went to the Brioni store and I met with their lead tailor, who's been with the company for like 45 years. And I was like, is this bad? I mean, he's like, you just can't wear it anymore. But by the way, you bought that, Miss Sprenger's, in 2011. And I'm telling you, I wore it probably every day since 2011. And so, Quentin, that must be the same for you, where even with bespoke, the investment, you could wear one of your suits, I imagine, for a decade or more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And like I said, I come from a place of not being able to afford these types of things. So that's why I was doing the thrifting and wearing the more, like you said, the more accessible brands, and I was just getting them tailored. And people thought that I was a lot more successful than I actually was. And that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother story in itself right there. Just being, just because you don't necessarily have the funds to be able to purchase these type of things, you can still present yourself in a way where people take you seriously and look at you properly. So, yeah.
Well, it's stressing for the job that you don't have, or you want to move forward in. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You can be in the room trying to get a client, and the person you're competitive with have the same smarts, same everything. You just happen to look better. There is a greater chance that person, the client you're trying to sign, is going to sign with you because you have the knowledge and the look, and they don't, whether you are that person or not.
And one other thing I'll touch on that I currently am dealing with, the fact that I look I am young. I'm 31 years old, but I look a lot younger, especially when my hair was shorter. And dealing with the type of clients that I deal with, and especially trying to attract some of the type of clients that I prefer to work with, it's kind of hard for me because I look so young. A lot of people think I'm like in my early 20s at times and things like that. So I have to dress well in order for people to really understand that I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this for a while. I'm not as young as I look. I have the knowledge behind everything, but dressing well helps kind of offset that a little bit. Because if I was out here wearing jeans and sneakers with a button up, it's like, you know what I'm saying, that wouldn't get the job done. So I have to dress a certain way for people to actually take me serious, knowing that I'm a younger guy in the bespoke world.
Can I ask you something about that? That's actually a really good point. Can I ask him a question, Steph?
I will. Please do. Yes.
That's really interesting because one, you're 100% right. I think if you are a young person, the way you dress definitely elevates the perception of who you are and can take you a bit more seriously. But do you find with working with clients that, let's say you were just street style, right? And you didn't have to dress up to get that extra step. Do these clients actually think and believe, you know what, you're younger, so I probably don't know if I should trust you, even though you got all the skills and you're crushing it? Because I feel old,
Yeah.
but I guess it works. So does that really, it really makes a difference? Because I always ask that question because I don't look at it that way.
Yeah.
You either got it or you don't.
Yeah, it really does. I think it's more so with some of the older clients who really aren't into style. They just see this young guy and they think that, oh, you haven't been doing this long enough to be able to tell me, or they'd rather just trust someone who has been doing it longer than I have, with no real kind of intelligence behind that thought process.
Right.
But yeah, that's a real thing that I have to deal with. So I'm very conscious of, like saying, I'm conscious of the way my office looks, the type of car that I drive, where my office is located. Like, I'm very conscious of those types of things because I know that's how I'm perceived.
Yeah, I just think it's very interesting. You know, when I bought a house 4 years ago and I hired a designer, young, 20 something years old, and I hired him because he did a celebrity friend of mine, and I was like, okay. And he had great ideas, and we also were looking into somebody else who was more experienced, been around, a little more expensive, and I went with this guy. And you know what? He killed it. And not only did he kill it, 3 years later, this guy has his own company, and the clientele he has is insane. And it becomes, what you realize is, and you said in the beginning, which your business is the same as mine, getting new clients. Yeah, people will read about you, people will know about you, they'll hire you, but it's really word of mouth, and it's really how they look at other people and go, wow, I would like to look like that. Wow, I wish my house was like that. Wow, who's helping you? What's going on? And that's really how it is. And then they don't give a shit what your age is.
Exactly. And it takes people like you to be able to trust in the younger generations, to know that they're going to bring fresh ideas, new ideas to the table and things, instead of a lot of people are stuck in their ways. Yeah. So people that think like you are the people who are giving the younger people a chance to kind of shine and show that we put in the groundwork to kind of be where we at right now. But a lot of people are just very stagnant and they're just stuck in their ways.
Well, and we're always,
so I appreciate people like you who.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're always growing, and we deal with guys, right? We're men, and we're creatures of habit. And as we get older, we're even more creatures of habit, and we don't like change. But what I tell people when they hire me and they're scared to do certain things, I take baby steps for the most part, right? And then I push it. But I always tell them straight up, and I don't care who they are, I go, if this is what you want, then why am I here? Why'd you hire me? Like, you don't need to spend X amount of dollars for me to put you in a Navy suit. If that's what you want, I'm going to tell you, go here, do that, love you. Call me if you need something. Like, I'm straight up, because there's no creativity for me. There's no creativity for you. You're kind of like, okay, I'm just going to do it for the money. But at that point, you might as well not, you look better by saying, you don't need me if this is what you want. And then they kind of open up, and they have to, they've got to take the chance. anyways, we could go
Well,
on.
Quentin, you must have that, because even looking at the jacket behind you or the pussy bow shirt that you're selling to men, I mean, you really, and I've seen your Instagram, it is amazing. And you're putting men in color and patterns and texture that's really different. And so your clients must just be, it's like a great chef who's like, I'm doing something different, but you just got to go along for the ride.
Yeah, and a lot of my clients do, they trust me because I do what I do so well that they might not even understand it, but it translates well for them. So they're like, all right, I don't get it, I don't understand it right now, but I trust you that you're gonna do it well. And as soon as I dress them, they get the most compliments that they've ever received in their life. People are talking to them like they've always dressed well off of this one outfit. So that's kind of what sells it, and it gives them a level of comfort of like, okay, this young cat knows what he's doing. So I can kind of give him a little more rope. Yeah.
And by the way, you know, even what you just said about the pussy bone and so forth, Quentin's not putting that on everybody. If if that makes sense for you, he'll try it. But otherwise, if it's not, he's not pushing that, right?
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because a lot of people also think that because they see the things that I wear, or they may see some of the things that I design, they think that I'm going to be trying to push all these things on them. Everything isn't for everyone. I've invested enough into my craft, and I understand what looks well on each individual person. So I don't push pussy bows. I don't push multi-pattern trench coats on every client. You know what I mean? Because the CEO of some company, this isn't what they're trying to wear. You know what I mean? But I know how to push the envelope in the right areas that may give you a little more pizzazz, or a little more flair. But definitely, yeah. So that's one thing that I've dealt with in the past, is a lot of people thinking that I only can design these crazy off the wall pieces, which isn't the case.
Well, no, and if you look at your Instagram, you have so many suits where it's just they're so beautiful, and a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, anyone would just look amazing in them. Like, to me, it's as good as any big international brand I've seen, and it's very great. But for the record, as a woman, when I see a guy that does something different like that, all of us girls are like, who's that guy? We're so impressed by it. So that's my 2 cents. Well, you guys, it's been so good to talk with you. And for all of you guys that are watching, both Andrew and Quentin have a profile on this platform, so you can click their image on the platform, see their Instagram, follow them. And of course, Andrew can be found at The Whites Effect, Quentin at Thrash Bespoke. And I just love you guys. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having us. And, you know, I'm a big fan and supporter. And so this is great. And I look forward to the next one.
The next one. I love it. Okay, you guys, have a good day.
All right. See ya. Quentin,
Okay,
see you later, brother.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye.